Hey guys, we're back, and this time, right before we do some wiring on this motorcycle, since this motorcycle is a 2004 Suzuki GS500F, I figured I could do some upgrading with these lights. They're halogen lights, and I'm gonna change them out to LED. This will give the motorcycle a more modernized look, and it will definitely decrease the amount of weight on the motorcycle itself. And weight is a big component as far as an electric motorcycle. So let's take off all these old components. Here I bought the turn signals, the brake light, as well as my headlight. This headlight is a diameter of 5.75 inches I bought off Amazon that will provide low beam and high beams. My next purchase I made were these 4 LED lights that will be used for my turn signals. They are quite tiny, which will give me that very modern look on the motorcycle that I'm actually looking for. And lastly, my brake lights. What's really nice about these brake lights is that I could use them as brake lights as well as using them as a left and right hand turn signal. So there are LEDs on the outer diameter that are used for brakes, and then there's an inner diameter circle for turn signals if I were to use that. For a quick comparison, you could tell how small these turn signals are compared to the incandescent light bulb turn signal that I originally had. The best part of all these upgrades that I'm doing is that it will be a 75 to 80% power reduction. Even though I'm using an external battery on my motorcycle that I've built, this will substantially decrease the amount of power consumption I'll have to take out of that battery when running these LEDs. Comparing the old assembly to the new components that I bought, it's a massive difference. But looking further into it, I forgot that there is no way of mounting this headlight on the motorcycle, so I had to go back to the drawing board and start designing a way to mount something onto the motorcycle. So I started with a way to mount to the frame originally, and similarly to the original light, then I had to design a housing. So here are all the prototypes I had to start with to fit the back part of the LED, and then I had to design a way to cover that housing with screws that would run around the housing on the outer portion of the LED light. For my first prototype of my housing, I had to have an opening because there were heat sinks on the backside, and thankfully everything was able to clear. The other hole is pretty much for the cable to run right through. I finalized on a design with the housing and the mount, and that was 19 hours, and then the cover to hold onto the LED light, and that was a 3-hour print. So let's just get to printing and see how these turn out. The first print actually took 17 hours and 45 minutes, but it turned out stellar. The reason I actually added some holes on the backside is for some airflow, and that way the LED light, when it's getting overheated, has some airflow to cool it down. That print was actually quite difficult to take off, but I'm super excited because the design actually turned out quite well and the design looked very nice. It ended up fitting the LED light perfectly and it mounted to the chassis even better. But then the further I looked into it, the light ended up pitching up, and that's not what we want for an LED light. So unfortunately, this housing I didn't end up using, but I wanted to see what angle I needed the LED light to be pitched down at. So I measured it to be at least 30 degrees downward from where the chassis was. So I designed an adapter to be able to see if the LED light with this adapter would work. And by the looks of it, it did point downward, but at this point, with so much plastic mounted to the front side of the motorcycle, it just did not look too appealing. So unfortunately, I had to scrap this component as well and go back to the drawing board. After doing some thinking, I ended up removing the backside of the mount and decided to just have brackets that would mount onto the suspension and have it mounted to the side of the headlight. With a finalized design and both parts printed, I'm ready to start assembling. I was about to create my own brackets, but I was spending too much time on this already, so I bought some on Amazon. I'll also be using heat inserts to assemble all this together. Now, as far as the bracket goes, the hole for the turn signals were a little too big, so I designed a custom bushing for it to fit very nicely and have them nicely mounted on these brackets. Here's my finalized design of my 3D printed housing, and I'm definitely proud of this design and I can't wait to use it. I'm super happy I actually went this route because the original design was fixed to the chassis and the headlight would not move during the time I would be turning the motorcycle. That's one thing I definitely disliked when I was originally riding this motorcycle, but in this scenario, I will be able to see exactly where I'm riding during the nighttime while making those turns. The funny part about this is I was also very worried about not only designing the housing of this LED headlight, but a way to mount the turn signals into the housing that I've designed to incorporate it, and it just ended up being way too complicated. I was spending a ton of time. It probably took me a few days to maybe over a week to start designing and finalizing this product together, but I'm super happy that I ended up going this route. Super simple, and with this design, I can make sure that the headlight is pointed exactly where I need it to. Thankfully, the rear side of the motorcycle was very easy to assemble. It was just a couple washers and a hex nut on either side. Now, I wasn't too sure on how I was going to mount the taillight, but I ended up using the bracket for the license plate, and then when I'm ready to add my license plate to the backside of the motorcycle, I'll just mount it the way I am now, but with the license plate in front. And maybe later on, I might cover the opening behind the headlight just so it doesn't get dirty inside the motorcycle. Here's the final look of the upgrades on the backside and the front of the motorcycle. Here are some before and after shots I posted online a while back, but I figured I'd include it for you guys anyway, just so you could see it. And like I always say, if you guys like this type of content, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.